Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the crossroads with MDB, and it's a very, very important piece of information that I'm going to share with you today. I love to break down brilliant albums, masterpiece albums, albums that have changed lives and thoughts and attitudes and relationships, spiritually, physically, every way, and I'm doing Van Morrison today with his immortal classic, Astral Weeks. So many of my musician friends have adopted Astral Weeks as the template for them. Little Steven Van Zandt himself has said, Astral Weeks, quote, was like a religion to us. Okay, so that's how important this is. The stakes were very high when a 22, 23-year-old Van Morrison went into that studio in New York City and made this record. It was the second studio album by Van Morrison. It's been so widely acclaimed. It's had this enduring impact on listeners and on musicians. Astral Weeks has stream of consciousness, poetry, and they evoke emotions and images, you know, instead of intellectual ideas and narratives. It's like a folk rock album, really. It's been described as impressionistic, as having a blend of folk and blues and jazz and classic. In fact, you know what? It's completely genre-defying. There is really no genre that you can ascribe to this record. This record is one of a kind. It will never be made again, and it was never made since. It was this moment in time when this young guy came to New York and put this thing together. And they did it at Century Sound in New York City, Yeah, between September and October 68. And the band, you know, the band itself never even rehearsed this stuff. Van was pretty uncommunicative. He went into this booth with his guitar and he played it. He didn't communicate with lead sheets, you know, writing down the music. And rehearsals, no. All of it was done in a most free associative way. And you've got all this different blending of music with folk and blues and radical departure from Brown Eyed Girl, which he'd become famous for in '67 with them that he put out. I mean, it's this album suddenly came out of him. Impressionistic, hypnotic, stream of consciousness, and it's received enormous critical acclaim. Immediately it came out, it got great acclaim, but it never sold. It only went gold in 2001, and it came out in, you know, '68 on Warner Brothers, produced by Louis Merenstein. So it's an amazing thing that this album has been so pivotal to both musicians and listeners. Never really sold again. This is such the strange vagaries of rock and roll. I mean, Mojo, Best Album, you know, Rolling Stone. All of the great sort of respected magazines and writers have just considered it one of the, you know, the literal desert island disc, really, which is an amazing thing. Now, the other thing about this record is very interesting, and that involves Van and the band, because you're familiar with the album and you can listen to the album, and we'll play a song from the album right after this, obviously. The drummer has a great quote about it, and he says this, Connie Kay, quote, what he wanted me to play, that is Van, what Van wanted me to play, and he said, you know, okay, he said, you know, play whatever I felt like playing. So they just sat there and jammed, really, and the songs came together magically, and some of the tracks were first takes, but the musicians were really great musicians, and it just came together. What a phrase. I mean, it applies to rock and roll and relationships, doesn't it? But listen to this quote from Van. It's very humble and very interesting. Quote, you have to understand something, says Van. A lot of this, there was no choice. I was totally broke. So I didn't have time to sit around pondering or thinking all this through. It was just done on a basic, pure survival level. I did what I had to do. Van said that in '09, which is fascinating. And I'll leave you with this thought. A quote from the great Lester Bangs, the great rock critic, said something very, very impactful and sums it all up, I think. The great Astral Weeks by Van Morrison. Quote, Lester Bangs, it sounded like the man who made Astral Weeks was in terrible pain. Pain most of Van Morrison's previous works had only suggested. But like the later albums by the Velvet Underground, there was a redemptive element in the blackness. Ultimate compassion for the suffering of others, and a swath of pure beauty and mystical awe that cut right through the heart of the work. Van Morrison was 22 or 23 years old when he made this record. There are lifetimes behind this record. What Astral Weeks deals in are not facts, but truths. Astral Weeks, insofar as it can be pinned down, is a record about people stunned by life, completely overwhelmed, stalled in their skins, their ages and selves, paralyzed by the enormity of what in one moment of vision they can comprehend. Bangs called the album the rock record with the most significance in his life so far. So there you have it. Astral Weeks from the great Van Morrison. Go get it. Go embrace it one more time.